the FNL Network talk show.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the FNL Network talk show. I'm your host, Diana Gebbia, and today I am joined by Marianne, Holly, and Eugenia. I love this girl group. How are you doing, ladies?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm happy the sun is setting later. You know what? I feel like I'm in such a better mood now that the sun is setting later.
Yes. It's so
Amen.
true. Are you in Los Angeles, Diana?
Yes.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, it's just like you feel like you can do more things outside, go for late walks. Like, it's the best. So,
yeah.
we got a lot to cover this week, as always. I feel like I say that all the time, but you know what? I'm not lying. So let's jump right in. First, everyone saw Rihanna's performance at the Super Bowl last week, and she was pregnant, by the way. None of us knew that. Not even her own dad knew that. But some people are still ripping on her performance and calling it boring. And I'm sorry, this pregnant lady was suspended in the air, and that was not good enough. Do you agree with people who say it was boring, or do you think that she deserves more credit? And Eugenia, I'll start with you.
Yeah, as somebody who was working during pregnancy, being a model, I totally think she did amazing with all the choreography and everything, so much energy that it involves. It's really hard to judge, She's a killer example of a strong woman, who can do it all, such a power symbol. I think she timed it wisely. I give her all the credit. I think she deserves it, and we don't know. I remember working as a model and being pregnant. They made us jump in the air saying oh, it's nothing, and you try your best, but your energy level is definitely not the same, no matter how amazing it looks from the outside. So yeah, I would go give her all the credit.
Yeah, and not only that, I mean, I've never been pregnant before, but my friends who have been pregnant, once you get to a certain point, the baby starts getting into organs and things like that, shifting things and making things feel tighter. I don't think Rihanna's at that point yet, but still, you're carrying around this extra human. She's definitely gonna feel it in her body. What did they want her to do? Somersaults? I don't understand. Holly, what do you think?
First of all, love the organ thing. That explanation, you totally had me go there mentally. I agree. It's lovely. Got a mental picture of that. I'm totally in another world right now. I'm inside of women, right? I'm in the female psyche. Yeah. I think it's great. I think that women should be honored for taking risks. I think that in certain cities, definitely women do have that kind of power. I think that power can be within us all to do that. I think it should be respected. When we take risks, we should be honored for taking risks. We should be supporting one another when we take risks. And you're going to get backlash either way. I think that Rihanna doing that performing pregnant, whoa, that's hard enough. Me, I consider myself a very sensitive person. I don't know how I can react in certain situations, especially when the estrogen is at its highest, as a woman, and we're worried about another life. And us, we're like, oh my gosh, oh, it's kicking. I mean, she's all singing and everything. What if the baby kicks while she's got to be used to that. But what if some phenomenon happened? What if she gave birth while singing a high note, a really big high note? How would the stage handle that? So I just think it's interesting. She should be supported way more. I think that all people should be supported for taking risks more.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point about getting backlash either way, because a few years ago, J-Lo and Shakira were the halftime performers, and they were doing all sorts of stunts on the pole, looking great, and people hated that too. So I feel like you can't win sometimes. What about you, Marianne?
I'm with all of you. The woman is pregnant. She's doing good to be out there at all. Yeah. I mean, what if she's got morning sickness? What if she feels like she wants to throw up? I mean, you just don't ever know what's going on in somebody's life with their body. I think it's amazing that she is pregnant and on stage doing her thing, in front of all these people when I've even heard, because I've never had a baby, but I've even heard that loud noises and sounds can be harmful to a growing baby. I mean, there's so many risks, and she was willing to take those risks just to be there and perform. So I don't see an issue with it. I thought her performance was beautiful. I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Like I said, the fact that she's up there, she is doing her thing, I think it's amazing. And I think she needs to be given more credit.
Yeah. And she actually performed for free. So like, even with that, she really was just there, for the love of it all.
Yeah,
For free.
I think it requires so much rehearsals, what people don't understand, like how much it takes to put a show together, like time wise, and it is hard and like healthy person just to do that.
Yeah. I saw there were a couple articles, like some old wrestler was like, well, she was grabbing her crotch too much. And I'm like, who the hell cares? You guys give, I don't know, Eminem a pass. You gave Michael Jackson a pass. Like, is it because she's a woman? Like, also, I don't even remember who this wrestler was. So it just shows he's irrelevant. Like, he's just got to think up something to get attention. It wasn't like The Rock or Stone Cold Steve Austin or anything. No, it was just like some random guy. I'm like, I never heard of him. But yeah, I feel like we can't make everyone happy. Good for Rhianna for doing what she loves. And she is just taking the hate in stride. She's like a boss. And I loved it. I loved every second of it. I wasn't bored. I love the people in the white floaty outfits. And there are so many great memes of them now. So I think it was a successful show.
Well, who's going to say no to the Super Bowl anyway? I mean,
Yeah. Exactly. So speaking of showbiz, Ryan Seacrest made a huge announcement this week. He's leaving Live with Kelly and Ryan after 6 years, which I'm sure was not an easy decision for him. He did it so he could pursue things like American Idol, be more present for that and his radio show. Plus going back and forth from New York to LA. I mean, that would probably age me 50 years. So like, good for him for doing it for 6 years. But that got me thinking, have you guys ever had to make a difficult decision to give up something you love? And how did you come to that decision? How about you, Marianne?
Yes, I have. And it was due to the distance for me as well. I had a job that I really enjoyed, but it was a 70-mile commute each way. I was completely exhausted when I would get home every night. And I was just like, I don't know how much I can keep doing this. And it was doing something that I really love to do. But in the end, I knew that I was burning the candle at both ends. Not to mention, I was spending a ton of money in gas, a ton. I mean, and I loved the work, but the environment at that place was kind of toxic and there had been no training. So I was lost anyway. So it was a hard call to make, and it took me a while, but my husband was very supportive. And it was just one of those things that I knew for my health, mental health, physical health, happiness, I had to do it. And yeah, some people were disappointed, but at the end of the day, you've got to do what's best for you, and you can't be worried about what other people are going to think.
Definitely. So 70 miles, was that like 2 hours?
So about an hour and 15 minutes each way.
Okay. I had an hour commute when I lived in Jersey, so I totally get it. Like, you come home at the end of the day and you want to rip someone's head off, and like, your family did nothing to you, but you're just so worked out from being on the road and idiots on the road, and like on top of a day at work, it takes a lot out of you. Holly, what
Absolutely.
about you?
Yeah, I totally agree with the both of you. There was a season where I was driving, 165 miles one way and then back because I thought it was a character growth. And then, oh boy, what it did to the car, that I was driving, so much went wrong with that car. And then you're like, well, you got to have stuff, you got to have insurance, you got to have savings, to back that up. And so sometimes you just don't. And so you kind of get through it. But what I would say, probably because I have speaking in my upbringing. So that was probably the biggest hurdle for me. Not so much the distance. I didn't care about that season. It was growth. I grew as a person. I was young when I first started speaking. I got so much criticism for that because I was around all these other like seasonal speakers, whatever, and they were at least they were way older, and if they weren't way older in age, they were way older, like discounted. So I had to work past that discounting because I didn't come from the backgrounds that they did. I was kind of that underdog starting out, and I was very youthful in it. In fact, they looked at me like I was youthful. They're like, what are you about? Like, what are you sizing me up? Like they do in LA, like, oh, get your Instagram and bye. We don't hear from you again. Like, oh my God, do you want to take a picture with me on the red carpet? No, sweetie, I'm okay. I have like 201K hits, bye, type of thing. And you're just like, and I'm not dissing those women. They're beautiful. They have their own mission when they go to those events, whatever. I think they're whatever, beautiful, whatever you do, you boo. But it's discounting in all things. And sometimes you're the underdog. Sometimes you grow out of being the underdog and you just have to do it, but we should all be celebratory. So that's one of my biggest hurdles, was overcoming being discounted, speaking too soon.
Yeah, definitely. You bring up a lot of good points. Like, people are gonna people. That was the best thing someone ever told me. People are gonna people. And it's all about how you respond to it. So I definitely understand. Eugenia, you always have something going on. So I am sure there is something you have had to say no to, and I want to hear all about it.
Oh my God. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. I'm literally in the car, guys, on set, parked in some like weird garage. I don't know where. So I'm just really excited that I didn't have to say no to this. And I'm here with you lovely ladies, discussing these exciting topics between takes, hiding from my director. I'm like, okay, you guys can wait in the film. I need to do this show. So, excited for that. But yeah, I feel like, being born in the way I was born in like Russia and in the foodlands, and my parents will like kick me out, very fast. Or I had to like choose between pursuing modeling full time or going to university. And I know that I lost my dad pretty early, so I didn't have a chance to pursue really good education in Russia because everything is so corrupt, and I'm sure still is. So I knew I could never had like even though my dad was a nuclear scientist and like I was very curious, wanted to study so many things, I knew that modeling was my ticket out. So I know like my mom is like, are you sure you're going to go to Paris? And you don't know, you have to sign contracts. It's not as glamorous as everybody thinks. You have to work with adults. You have to make a living. I have no B plan. Literally, I have to make my own money and pay taxes and everything else. But I'm like, this is a ticket out. I'm going to take this chance and not have a good education, which, I do regret sometimes because not everything is always based on looks. And I wish I had enough time. Like now having kids, I don't have enough time to go and study some things that I really was passionate about. So that was a choice. But and my therapist always says, just be conscious when you make a choice. There's no regret. 100% take responsibility for it. There's no wrong choice. Life will kind of magically, I believe, bring you to where you're supposed to be, no matter which road you take. So that was that. And then I had my kids very young, in the middle of like my explosion of my modeling career. I was top earner at Ford Models, and my agent sat me down. She's like, what are you doing? You're killing your career. Now models can work for much longer. I think there's still like prejudice with ages still, like the older you get, the less money you make, I think, but there's some exceptions and it's opening much more. But at that time, it's really like, okay, you're 20, like your career, if you don't work for another 5 years, is over. So I made a conscious decision to have a kid, even though I wasn't married, and my husband, like, we didn't even know. It was a new relationship. Like, it happened that my doctor said I can't maybe have kids, or like, it's very difficult for me. And when I knew that I had this baby, I canceled all my Vogue shoots and everything else. I'm like, I'm having this baby. I'm going to be working as a pregnant model. I'm going to jump from gap shoots up and down. Maybe I'm going to do some, brands that I used not to work with, because there's a certain level that you train like an athlete to be, And yeah, I made the choice, never regretted it, obviously. I made a choice to go back right to work when I had a kid as well, because, like maybe my husband was working and I didn't have to push myself, but I'm like, no, I'm going to be a working mom. Like, this is, I want to be self-sufficient. I want to grow in my career. I'm young and I can do it both. So I used to fly between LA and New York and be exhausted. And then, every week, every weekend. And then I did have to make a decision to stay in LA for my kids' school. And obviously, the market for fashion is not the same in Los Angeles. So I feel, you always, like, I was always forced to make very dramatic choices. And at some point we even thought, because my husband is 30 years older than me, we thought like, oh, our schedules are so different. We're going to be living in two different houses next to each other just to have space, which everybody was like, what is happening? You guys are crazy. It's Hollywood, like I'm saying. But I'm like, you have to, at the end of the day, you have to make things from self-love, self-care, your mental health, and, and like the best for your family and people that you love, because you never will make enough money or have that enough career, and sometimes I think spending time is the only valuable thing that you can never take back, time and health. So I always make decisions based on that.
Yeah. And I love that, like, the call to motherhood, like, you rose to the occasion and you were like, yep, like having this baby. Cause there are just some people, which it's totally fine for some people, but they wouldn't have made the same like decision. So that just goes to show like what kind of a parent you are. Like, you were dedicated to your child from like day -1. So that's amazing.
Thank you. My kids wouldn't say the same. They would be like, she's a terrible mother.
I'm sure. Are they at that age where it's like teenagers and they're starting to pick fights and everything?
Yeah, my son is leaving to live, and be professional tennis players. So yeah, they're kind of moving out a little bit.
Totally. I remember when I used to fight with my mom. It gets better. So for me personally, I danced ever since I was 2. And when I went to college, I went for broadcasting, but I wanted to have a dance minor just to, keep myself active. I got to go dance at Princeton Ballet School. I loved it. But I got the opportunity I had enough credits because I took a college course in high school. So I had the opportunity to graduate a semester early, but I would have had to drop my dance minor, and I did. It was kind of a no-brainer for me, but it still was an emotional decision because I was like, I'm not going to spend, I don't know how much my college was, 20, 30 grand just to have a minor that I'm not really going to use. Like, I didn't want to be a professional dancer. I just did it for the love of it. But that's the love of it is what made it so emotional, because I loved going to these classes. I loved learning from these teachers. Like, I was at Amoeba Records recently and I found a record with like ballet warm-ups on it. And I'm like, oh my God, because it tells you the steps on the back, like what steps go with what songs. And I'm like, I remember doing these. So that was really difficult for me, but it was the right decision. And sometimes I go take dance classes. I haven't in a minute. Like, I've done bar a lot, which I really liked, or Zumba. But yeah, I actually want to try like belly dancing. I went to Basbusa in West Hollywood last night, and like they had belly dancers come out and I was dancing with them. I'm like, okay, I got to find a belly dancing class ASAP. It looks like so much fun. Yeah. So maybe one day on the show, I'll come and do my belly dancing. I'm sure Rocco would love that. All right. All great points. The next question I have for you, I love going to the movies. If there's a movie that I like, am really excited about, I will go see it in theaters, because it's one thing when you watch it at home. Watching it at home has its advantages. You can get up, go to the bathroom, and hit pause. But when you're in theaters, you get the reaction of everyone around you. Like, I recently went for Valentine's Day, I went to a showing of Jennifer's Body, which is an older horror movie, but I had only seen it at home. And seeing it in the theater, like, everyone was cracking up at certain points, and, someone scary comes and you're like, ugh, and like everyone's like that. So AMC they're obviously one of the biggest theater chains, and they're making some changes to their ticket prices, which, by the way, I remember when I was a teenager. I sound like my mom now. I remember when I was younger, ticket prices were only, I think, $8 for like an adult ticket, and it was like $4 or $5 for a child. And now it's like $20 to go to the movie. That's why I go discount Tuesdays. But anyway, they're making some changes. They're doing something called Sightline. And what that means is you're pretty much going to pay for your ticket by the like level of your seat. So people tend, when you go to the theater, you want to sit in the middle because you're not like stretching your neck at the front. And you know, the back sometimes can be annoying. People get rowdy back there. So the middle usually fills up first. Well, now AMC is going to charge more for the middle, but less for the front and less for the back. And they're trying to brand it as like, oh, well, we're giving you options for lower ticket prices. And I'm like, nuh-uh, like, because I feel like nobody's going to buy the front row. You're trying to make more money. So do you guys agree with me, or do you think that this is all a giant money grab? Holly, I'll start with you.
I feel like because of inflation, everything has gone up. Everything is unaffordable. We went from the rich, the medium, the poor kind of thing. We went from that middle road, and I'm not quite sure how long we rode out this middle road in society, but now we're just straight out rich and po, as they say, not poor, but po, you know, where you go from poor to po. So, and there is no, sorry, I had to go there. There is no middle ground anymore, ladies. There is none. And if you can raise up your hand, can all my independent women raise their hands? Anyway, on that note, I feel like because of inflation, you can't go out. So I'm so glad that Diana actually gets to go to the movies, because all the rest of road people gonna have to sit home and just kind of watch Pretty Woman and just wish that we could go on this $3,000 shopping spree. I'm totally kidding. No, inflation has gone up, yes, and the movie theater tickets are crazy. Everyone wants those second to middle row where the impact and the thunder from the seats just kind of roars up. Awesome. I fought people for that row. It gets ugly. But I agree with you, and I want to go to AMC now. I want to support AMC now, where they're playing the old movies and the new movies. Yes, because not every theater does that. So I think this ticket scalping is ridiculous. I think everything just needs to stay where it is, and that's me.
Yeah, I love AMC. Like, shout out AMC City Walk. That's my closest movie theater, and they've got the recliner seats, and you get to pick your seat like ahead of time, so you don't have to fight anyone, Holly. It's a great experience. So I was a little bummed when I heard this news. What about you, Marianne?
Yeah, it would bum me out too. I think it's probably a money thing. I think a lot of things are a money thing. You know, it would be, to me, a lot more simple just to have it uniform. Everybody can go in and enjoy the movie. Gosh, it has been years since I've been in a theater like that. But they're a lot of fun. They are so much fun. But yeah, I think it's probably a money thing. Like Holly was saying, yes, inflation is happening. And that ultimately is going to affect the price of everything. I've seen prices go up with every single thing I buy. And it's inevitable. Ticket prices, anything is going to go up. It's just the way it's going to be. But do I think that it's about money and that it's not necessary? Yeah, I do. I mean, and there'll probably be some frustration. There's going to be some backlash. There's going to be some upset people. And there's going to be some people that are fine with it. It just depends on what their stance is. But yeah, I think it's more about the money, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree with you. Just people want money in their pockets. Eugenia, what about you?
I actually kind of disagree, you guys. I think it's very complex, just from like my experience. You know, the whole entertainment business since COVID changed completely dramatically, and been changing for a while, since the time that Netflix was supposed to get the first Oscar for their film, and then Roma, you know, they didn't get it. And there was like this whole discussion about, you know, if Netflix, Amazon movies can get Oscar, if it's just the studio system. And COVID, I feel like, killed the whole experience of us being in the cinemas together. My favorite, cinemas like ArcLight were closed. All the independent supporting, cinemas that were supporting all these artists and filmmakers and, they're really struggling. And so I heard about, AMC, like they're really, really struggling to keep the business afloat because it's really easy for people to not go and just stay at home and watch everything on Netflix and Amazon and everything else. And now, for example, there are different laws. I know that in Europe, after you screen a movie in the theater, it takes like 90 days or like even almost a year, I think a long time to get it to your home. But here it's only a month, right? Or sometimes movies come out simultaneously. So it's obvious that the cinemas, they don't have the same profit like they used to be. And I think they just don't know what is their model. They used to do like subscription and upgrade the seats. And I actually don't think it's a bad thing because I don't know how about you guys, but I hated like coming last and fighting for the seats. And then you finish up at the front row anyway. Like at least now there should be some structure. And I know what I can afford. I know some airlines were forced to do that. And I know there's a lot of discussion about that as well. Like, are you paying for upgraded seats or not, or like food or not? So I think a lot of industries are just really changed and struggling after COVID and after like everything transitioning online. I know that I get invited a lot of times to big premieres or, we do premieres for the films, and a lot of studios, they don't do premieres anymore, because it's too expensive for them. And on the other hand, somebody like Amazon, Apple Plus, and Netflix, they have this lavish, huge, events that we go to, and it is completely like the studio system in the golden age. So I think that storytelling in a way, all my kids are watching a TikTok, like it's all changing, unfortunately. I love cinemas, love theaters, love supporting that. So anything that they try to do to stay afloat, honestly, I would support. And I know they have a huge chain. So I think it's very complex, in that.
Yeah. My friend and I were actually having a discussion about how quickly movies are released lately, because I remember growing up, it would take like 6 to 9 months for something to come out on VHS back then. And on Friday, I saw Fangoria posted that the movie Infinity Pool, you'll be able to screen it. I think you can screen it now. And I'm not even kidding you. I went to the screener, like the press screener, on January 30th. So not even a month. It was like maybe 3 weeks. It was insane. Like, just, it blows my mind how instantly things are brought in. And my friend brought up a good point. She said, for people who are disabled and can't get to the movie theaters, that's great that they can offer it at home quicker. But at the same time, it's like a double-edged sword because they're killing their own industry. Eugenia, you had mentioned nobody's going to the movies anymore. It's hard to keep their business afloat. And movie going is at an all-time low right now. But I think this new plan is actually shooting themselves in the foot, because I don't think people are going to want to come as much if they notice that the prices that they paid for their seats that they would always get are going up. I think that's going to be a turnoff for people. And I know like behind the scene of things can be a lot more complex than it actually is. But I just feel like there was a better way to go about this. They could have gotten money in different ways. I mean, if you have to raise the price of popcorn, like you're already spending what, $15? People will still buy it for what, $18 or something, because you go to the movies, you want popcorn. Like people are gonna buy that stuff. I think it's just the getting them there. You're shooting yourself in the foot, because the thing that draws people in, now you're gonna make it inaccessible for some people and argue that like shitty seats, well, these are our lower price tickets. It's like, yeah, but do you want to be looking like this the whole movie? I made the mistake. I went to a screener one time and there was a chat with the director after, and I was like, oh, I want like second row so I could be like in front of the director. And then the whole movie, I was like, and my neck was killing me when I got home. So I'm not going to want to spend any amount of money to sit in the front row. They should pay me to sit in the front row, and I probably would not. So that's what I have for AMC. My toxic trait is I think I can organize things better than everyone else. And You know what? That's probably true for AMC. So give me a call, you guys.
Diana, I can agree with you. I remember when Titanic came out and like literally the cinemas were packed and I had to watch Titanic on the front seat and there's this huge sheep, it's like,
Yeah.
I was cursing it. I'm like, I really want to see the film, but seeing it in that way, it was just like a horror memory.
Yeah. You need like a chiropractor appointment after that.
Yes.
So I want to move on to working from home, which Marianne, you had mentioned you commuted 70 miles. So I definitely want to hear from you first, but Amazon is telling people that they need to come back to the office, and we've proven that we can do our jobs from home. Do you think that people should be forced to work from the office? Should they do a hybrid thing? Can people work from home? Why do you think people, want people in the office, like big execs want people in the office? And would you prefer working from home or going into the office? So Marianne, tell us.
Woo! I have my opinion. I think it's crazy that they're trying to force people to come back in if they have proven that they are able to be productive and successful at home. Mm-hmm. I think if they want to work from home and it's a more positive environment for them, they're saving gas money. It's probably good for their mental health if they're not having to drive a far distance. I don't think they should be forced. I understand there's probably exceptions. There's probably some that are loafers and are not trying. And I feel like it should be on a case-by-case basis. If somebody's not meeting their goals, if they're not trying, if they're not caring, if they're sleeping all day and not doing what they're supposed to do, then yeah, they probably have to go into the office, and that there's a reason. But somebody that's consistently productive, meeting their goals, I don't see why they should have to go in. I have an example. I have a good friend that I've known for many years, and she works from home, and she's got a great job in the banking industry. She works from home. She loves it. They have told her she's going to have to start coming back to the office, and I want to say it's an hour commute each way. And they're not making the other people in the office come back, just her. And she's fully capable of doing her job from home. So she's very frustrated and very upset. And I completely understand why. Because I think if you want to be able to work from home and you're able to, and it's a position in a job that you can, then I think you should be allowed to. Now, if you're like a front-facing customer service person, or if you're in the entertainment industry, obviously you can't work, you can't do everything from home. Right. But if it's something that you're able to do from home, I think you should be allowed to do it. COVID changed the way the workplace is. It changed the way we look at an office environment. And I think people should be allowed to have that choice.
Yeah, I agree. Like, COVID literally proved that we could do most anything from anywhere. Eugenia, what about you?
You guys, I never worked in the office.
That's right.
I don't think I'll do well in that environment. Honestly, if anything just goes out, I have to find something out of the office. Like if I can't work in the jobs that I'm doing right now, but I just could never work in that environment. So I don't think it's for everybody. And I agree with you, like mental health, it's everything, if you're more comfortable designing, your environment in a way which is more productive at home, why not? And I think a good boss would recommend that. Like my husband's company, Miramax, have the time people are reachable, by email, text, whatever it is. And they do their jobs on their computer much better in Bahamas than they are in any kind of environment where you're forced to, to behave, unless like it's really good for you and it helps to brainstorm and do the meetings. And, Amazon is a company, I can tell you, so controversial. Even in pandemic, they were forcing people to go back to work and like not paying them extra. And I just, I don't agree with that policy. Like I think a lot of small businesses lost because of Amazon. Like I was so happy to go to Paris in pandemic and see small businesses not being closed. And, there is that type of like, okay, they're in the office, but they're very happy, I don't know how Amazon treats their workers, but that can be a questionable thing. Like they don't want to go back. And at the same time, a lot of tech companies, they cause a lot of controversy, like Elon Musk firing people, or all these different tech companies telling they have to do a certain thing and bring their lunch to the office. I just feel like humanity is not respected in a sense. I think it's all about, do better, faster, and if not, you're going to get replaced with a robot, which is happening. So it really depends. I think it's a very scary question of like whether you should come back. I agree with you. If it's for humanitarian or better way to run the business, then yes. But in Amazon case, I don't know.
Yeah. Robots really are taking over everything, like that chat GPT server or GTP, whatever it is. You like plug in an idea and a robot like spits out whatever you need, like a paper, or like people do it with their cover letters. Like I've heard people do it with movie scripts. It's like a little intimidating. I think the robots are getting a little too smart for my liking. Holly, what are your thoughts?
On working from home? Okay, so I have a friend, they work in a restaurant business, and they have to work behind everything. So they have to serve everyone. They have to work behind glass, formats and things like that. They're just things offered, kind of like Chipotle. And so they were served that. They served people for a long time. They were a worker. They had their benefits, this and that. They had their benefits, they had their insurance, they had things lined up to where on a rainy day they were covered. And so, and overall, and so they were completely covered. They were completely satisfied. They could ask their boss for bonus because they got pregnant, and they would give they said they asked for higher pay, and that boss gave it to them because they had a good standing with them. Well, my friend, after a few years, was friends with this elderly woman and inherited her business. And so it was the right place, right time. And she's great with it. Now she has to work in an office, but it's basically like she works from home because she owns the company now. She can work from home, should she? She can answer her phones from the phone. She can deal with her laptop from the phone. So I think that the only problem with that is not working from home unless it works for you, if it's cohesive. If you have like a problem, or you have anxiety, or you have a physical, like if something is physically wrong at all, like I some people deal with anxiety. That's a true thing. You would have to work from home because it would be easier. You can't deal with people's energy coming at you like that. And so I read in an article that this Houston businessman shut he hired all of his employees at his restaurant back in, but cut off their benefits, cut off their, everything. It cut them completely off, and then paid them $3 lower than what he did. They still came back because it was during the pandemic. So this work from home stuff versus working in the office can be positive and can be negative, but each person just has to figure out what is your flow, like what is what's good, what's going to be good, what's going to be effective. So
yeah, I agree. Like some personalities do great working from home. Some people just need the structure of an office. I used to work in the office in Jersey, as I mentioned earlier. I had an hour commute. It was miserable. I miss some things about the office, like some people who used to work there, like we would go on coffee runs together. I miss like the family feeling of it and being part of a team with people around. But I was really nervous when I moved out to LA because like I was able to take my work with me and work remotely. I remember telling my boss, I'm like, I'm so scared to work from home. I feel like I'm going to fail. Like, I feel like it's not going to work out. She was like, number one, I won't let you fail. And like, number two, you'll be fine. And you know what? I prefer it now. I mean, like I mentioned earlier, I missed the social aspect of the office, but it's great. Like waking up, I brush my hair, I get changed, whatever, I get coffee. And like, literally, I just sit down at my desk and I'm at home, like during the day, if I need to throw a little laundry in, like my boss is cool with that too. You can at least get up from the computer, like take a 5-second break, go throw in a load of laundry, come back. And I still structure my day out. Like it doesn't change just because I'm doing my job in home, at a different location. I still have to-do lists. Right. I still know how to do time management. So for someone like me, it worked out better and there's no distractions, right? like part of that social aspect of the office. Like we would go in, I work in radio, obviously, and I can't tell you how many times I would go into the Hawk station and like my friend Andy and I would be chatting and I'm like, oh my God, a half hour passed. Like I need to go back to work. But now at home, like I don't have any of that. It's just me and my stuffed animal. So get work done a lot better. I saw a study from Stanford that said people are 13% more productive if they work at home. So I think it's also all about money too. Like someone told me that people are pretty much upset that like execs are upset because they're paying for these buildings, these office buildings, and nobody's going into them. So that's one of the reasons why they're forcing people to come in. I've seen that my old office, they don't force people to come in, but we had 3 floors. It's a 4-floor building. 3 of them was ours. We ended the lease on one of the floors and consolidated everyone to 2 floors. Save money. People were working from home, you know? So they cut out the floor. So I see how it could be all about money, but honestly, I think if you could do your job from home, like get it done. Like there's no reason why people should force people to come in. You know, it's the 21st century. Like let's all get with the program. Well,
Agreed.
Anything else anyone has to add?
Well, it's BAFTA today, you guys. The award season is up in London. So excited.
Yes.
Have you seen any film?
I got to check that out. I remember seeing an alert when I came back earlier and I was like, oh, I got to check it out. And like, my mind is like squirrel. And then I forgot. So I need to check that out.
Yeah, same here.
Well, this was so much fun as always. I love you guys so much. Thank you for joining us on the FNL Network Talk Show. I'm your host, Diana. We had Marianne, Holly, and Eugenia. Always so much fun with you guys. And don't forget to check us out next week. Bye.
Bye.